This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network, where you can find a whole host of great podcasts and great info at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's June 11th, and on this day in 1997, it was the Michael Jordan flu game. So, most people know the story of this game. It was talked about during the Last Dance documentary. Heck, it's been part of NBA lore since it happened 28 years ago, but it's just too good and too big to leave on the shelf. So, a refresher on the basics. This is Game 5 of the NBA Finals. It's the Chicago Bulls, obviously, and the Utah Jazz. This game is in Utah with the series tied at 2 games apiece. Also, this was a 2-3-2 series where now they play a 2-2-1-1-1. The Jazz had won games 3 and 4 and had the momentum, and along with it, a chance to take a 3-2 series lead. So this is a big game. I mean, they all are in the finals, but you don't necessarily want to be playing with your backs against the wall, staving off elimination. All right, so Jordan's illness. Throughout the broadcast, and for sure what the NBC announcers had been told, was that Michael was suffering from flu-like symptoms. That's how this game is the flu game and will always be the flu game. But as we learned in The Last Dance, and this is similar to what would happen to Kobe in 2000 in Sacramento, that we talked about a few weeks back, Jordan started to get hungry around 10 or 10:30 the night before. The Bulls were staying in Park City, Utah, about 40 minutes from Salt Lake City, and Michael decided to order a pizza from a local Park City pizza restaurant. But when the pizza showed up, there were 5 guys making the pizza delivery. Jordan's personal trainer at the time, Tim Grover, is the one who told that story on the documentary, and he said that he just had a bad feeling when he saw the throng of people delivering one pizza. But Michael took it and said he was the only one who ate any of that pizza, despite there being several other Bulls players and NBC's Ahmad Rashad in the room with him. He woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he began throwing up. It continued the rest of the night and into the morning. Now, his trainer said it was food poisoning. He tried to eat later in the day, but he struggled to hold anything down. He missed the morning shoot-around, which was an indication to his teammates that MJ was struggling and may not be able to go. But he was determined to play in Game 5 if he possibly could. The bus ride from Park City to the arena is a windy mountain road, and when Jordan got off the bus, he was dizzy and having trouble walking straight. So the Bulls doctor gave him 4 or 5 cups of coffee, which apparently is good for an inner ear disturbance. In pregame warm-ups, he looked like a ghost. He had vacant eyes, struggling to keep his energy level up. But what happened next surprised a lot of people. Well, not immediately. The Jazz jumped on top, feeding off the energy of their hometown crowd, screaming at a decibel level measured at 110, about the level of being at a heavy metal concert. Utah shot out to a 16-point lead in the first quarter, and then that's when Jordan found that little something deep down inside to get things going.
Michael Jordan has had to carry so much of the load as Hornacek back-to-back horrible turnovers for Utah. Jordan puts moves on Hornacek. Jordan to the crossover. Yes. Not bad for a guy playing with flu symptoms. In quarters, down to a 3-point Jazz lead. And the steal by Jordan. Putting behind the back on Russell. He turned it around and sent it to Pippen. By Michael Jordan.
He scored 17 points in the second quarter and pulled the Bulls back to just a 4-point deficit at half. Something else to keep in mind, Karl Malone had been named the MVP for the season, despite Michael winning the scoring title over Malone by more than 2 points a game. That was fuel in the tank for Jordan, something to prove that whoever voted for Malone over him was dead wrong. Malone came out in the second half and did something strange. He shot jumpers. Now, it's not to say he couldn't shoot the mid-range J, but he just settled for these jumpers, and it hurt his team. He missed 5 of his 6 attempts in the second half and only had 19 points on the night. But Jordan struggled in the third quarter as well, only scoring a bucket in that 12-minute span. and as the game went to the fourth, the Jazz had the lead and built it to an 8-point advantage with 10 minutes to play. And that's when the fuse on MJ's rocket got lit and he took off. He scored 10 straight to give the Bulls the lead. It went back and forth from there until the 46-second mark. Jordan on the free throw line hit the first to tie the game, but he missed the second. The Jazz could not grab the rebound and Jordan came away with it. And that's when Utah made a mistake. Brian Russell, thinking that Michael was just too worn out to take a three, decided to double-team Scottie Pippen. Pippen sent the ball back to a now wide-open Jordan, who hit the three to put the Bulls back up with 25 seconds to go.
10 on the shot clock. Pippen backing Hornacek. Here's Jordan from three. Yes! Michael Jordan from straight away. He looks like he's a boxer just hanging on along the ropes.
With 6.2 seconds left, the Jazz had an opportunity to tie it, but Jeff Hornacek's shot was short, and the Bulls won Game 5, 90-87. Jordan's flu game stats: he played 44 minutes, scored 38 points, including 15 in the fourth quarter. He grabbed 7 rebounds and handed out 5 assists and added 3 steals to the mix. Here's what he said to Ahmad Rashad after the game.
I was really tired. I was very weak. At halftime, I told Phil that use me in spurts. But, somehow I found the energy. Just stay strong. I wanted it really bad.
It was a game that only added to the lore that was Michael Jordan. Interesting fact, it took him about 45 minutes to recover in the locker room after the game. The team doctor wanted to give him an IV of fluids to aid his recovery, but Michael's aversion to needles negated that option. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1955, it was the worst tragedy with the greatest loss of life in motorsports. Now, this was the 24 Hours of LeMans, held each year in France. This race drew some of the greats in racing at the time, like Juan Manuel Fangio and Sterling Moss, who were driving the new Mercedes 300 SLR made of magnesium alloy, which was super lightweight for the time. Fangio and Mike Hawthorne in a Jaguar traded spots in the early going of the race, but on lap 35, a wreck on the front stretch quickly turned the race into a horror scene. Hawthorne passed a lap car before realizing he was being called to the pits. There weren't radios in their helmets then, they used signboards to indicate a pit stop. So Hawthorne veered sharply towards the pits, causing the driver he had just passed to take evasive action. At that point, Frenchman Pierre Levay was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it cost him his life. His right tire hit the back of the car that had just swerved in front of him, launching his car into the air and into a concrete barrier dividing pit road and the racetrack at 150 miles per hour. Levay's car simply disintegrated. He was thrown from the car and down the track, dying instantly. The engine block, the hood of his car, and other debris shot down the track, showering spectators standing on the inside of the track. The hood acted like a guillotine to many, the engine block like a 200-pound cannonball to others. Levay's car burst into flames, fueled not only by the gasoline, but made more intense by the magnesium alloy that the car was made of. His wife watched horrified in the pits next to his replacement driver, John Fitch. Along with Levay, 83 spectators died that day, and 178 more were injured. Last rites were performed as others searched frantically for their friends and family. But after the racetrack was cleared and bodies were still being removed from the spectator areas, the race was restarted and run to completion. The Mercedes drivers that were still running were quietly withdrawn from the track in the early morning hours, fearing a public relations issue if a German-made car won a death-marred race in France with the not-too-distant memory of World War II still palpable. The man whose erratic maneuver caused the horrific wreck, Mike Hawthorne and his Jaguar team, were the eventual winners the following day. Days, weeks, months, and even years later, blame was tossed about. Many blamed Hawthorne, who was apologetic immediately following the race, but changed his tune over time. LeVay was blamed for being too old to drive at such speeds. He was 50. The track was blamed for being old as well as in desperate need of improvements. After this tragedy, motor racing was banned in several countries in Europe, with a few still not permitting it. It would also be a long layoff for Mercedes in motorsports. It would be another 32 years until Mercedes would field another race team when they returned to Formula One in 1987. And apologies for following up one tragedy with another tragedy, but on this day in 1984, the Marques, a ship competing in the Cutty Sark tall ships race, sank, killing 19 of the 28 on board. The crew of the Marques had set sail from Bermuda on the second leg of the race from Bermuda to Nova Scotia. They were feeling pretty good after winning the first leg from Puerto Rico to Bermuda. At 4 a.m., the man on watch was heading below deck to get some much-needed rest. But weather conditions were deteriorating quickly. The third mate met the retiring man on watch at the top of the stairs and screamed for all hands on deck. That saved the man on watch's life. Moments later, a wall of water crashed into the crew on deck, pinning some and carrying others overboard. The crew members and family below deck never had a chance. It was already too late for them. A rogue wave caused the Marques to capsize and begin to take on water. The ship sank in about 30 seconds. A few of the crew on deck were able to grab inflatable life rafts, dodging falling rigging, and then paddle to safety. The survivors spent 3 hours bobbing in the water until a Polish ship, also competing in the tall ships race, saw the emergency flares and arrived on the scene. The man who'd been on watch until 4 a.m. said, as bad as it was, it could have been utterly catastrophic if the weather had kicked up a little earlier or a little later. But since it was a change of watch and then the call for all hands, more were topside than would have been at a different time. On this day in 1989, Michael Chang became the youngest to win the men's draw at the French Open. Chang had surprised everybody in Paris. As the 15 seed and the 19th ranked player in the world, he dispatched of a young Pete Sampras, then ranked number 92 in the world, in the second round. He took down top seed Ivan Lendl in the fourth round in one of the all-time great matches on the French clay. Well, on this day, he faced off with Sweden's Stefan Edberg in the final, and it was a classic five-setter. Chang took the first, Edberg won sets 2 and 3, and then Chang charged back to win the fourth and fifth sets. At 17 years, 3 months, 20 days, he became the youngest winner of the French. That would last a year until Monica Seles won the women's draw in 1990 as a 16-year-old. Chen is still the youngest man to win the French Open. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The Mayan people were quite the mathematicians. They developed a base 20 counting system and also came up with the concept of zero. They used their math skills to chart the stars and build their cities. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
The heel gets the heat. The babyface gets the cheers. But the jobber gets, well, the job done. And speaking of jobbers, Barry Horowitz wasn't there to win titles. He was there to build them. By selling every move, every storyline, and every new star that stepped into the ring. He was the secret sauce. And now, he's the headline in his new book titled Wrestling is My Gimmick, My Life on the Wrong Side of the 3 Count. This memoir is a deep dive into wrestling's most underrated position and the man who made it an art form. Whether you're a fan of wrestling, a fan of sports history, or just love a great story, this book is for you. Again, that's Wrestling is My Gimmick by Barry Horowitz. Grab your copy today before the count strikes 3.